We don't just become an ultra runner, we build up to it. But what is it in that first instance that makes us want to become an ultra runner? And once we are an ultra runner and we do that first event, what is it that makes us want to continue and look to go further? Hello and welcome to the Ultra Running Podcast with me, Coach Marshy. So let's welcome today's guest into the studio. So welcoming today, Lisa. Hello, Lisa. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good, really good. So what I'll do is I'll give the guys a little bit of a background because obviously we've met before. We've met many times at many races. So I think it was the Grim Reaper probably in 2016 when we first met. Is that right? Probably the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, about then, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I was there to do my second ever ultra marathon, which was an attempt at 70 miles. And forgive me, but what were you there to do in that year, 2016?
I think I was doing the 40 miles.
Right, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth in a bit. But just for everyone who's listening, everyone who's watching, just give us a little introduction. Who are you in the running world? What do you do in your day-to-day life? Are you part of a running club? Those sorts of things. Who are you in that running world?
I run with a club. I don't tend to train with them because they train later, but I do sort of do a lot of their races with them, and I try and support them as I can. I need to get back to there actually, but they're a really good club. I run with Ely Runners.
Excellent. And sort of your own running involvement. Sort of, do you train regularly, multiple days per week?
I try to train 3 to 4 days a week. I also do cross training as well, which includes like yoga and plyo. I'm trying to keep flexible, which, as you know, as a runner, everything shortens, all your muscles shorten. So you do become very stiff and very tight.
Yeah, we might dive into that a little bit later on, actually. But that whole kind of cross training, muscles tighten up. I think the way we sit, day to day, muscles tighten up. How do you, just in a brief answer, do you find it really beneficial to do the cross training?
I think so, because running you're always moving forward with running, so you don't sort of get any of the side movements, if that makes sense. You're using all the same muscles for running, and I think they get very fatigued after a while. So it's good to do other things as well.
Yeah, no, excellent. That's music to my ears as a sort of running coach as well. Although we love to smash out the long runs and all of that sort of training. Actually, having to do the cross training and the strength and conditioning stuff is really important. And I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you do that. So
yeah.
Let's dive into that intro then, what I said back in the intro. So when I mentioned, at some point you became a runner and then you went through a process, I guess, like everyone else that runs, and then something made you decide to start ultra running maybe. So just tell me a bit about your running process and then what made you start ultra running.
I started running about 16 years ago, and I mean, ultra running then wasn't really sort of, I don't know, it wasn't around or wasn't as popular as it is now. And I did my first marathon, oh God, I don't know how many years ago. And then a friend of mine did an ultra, and I thought, maybe I'd like to do one before I die. I've done about 60 marathons and ultras now.
Wow.
You get addicted.
Yeah, no, I think that's really the thing, isn't it? Is that running is that kind of my previous guest, Ash, he said that once you get into the ultra world, it's very easy to become hooked on it.
Oh yes, definitely.
And
yes,
it sounds similar to you as well. So obviously 16 years is a long time of running. Did you Did you start off in the kind of traditional way of doing couch to 5K, or did you start off with sort of something a bit longer, half marathons? How did that really go for you?
When I first started running, I couldn't actually run outside. I could only run on the treadmill, like do 2 miles at a time, because I used to get out of breath. And
Yeah,
someone said to me, "Why don't you just go outside and slow down and try it?" And I did, and I was hooked. So I
excellent.
started running outside, and I think it's better to be out in the fresh air as well.
Yeah,
I think
yeah. I
it's
think
good to be out.
that benefit is huge, and obviously, so you even started on a treadmill then. So, you
Yes.
know, you know, 2 miles at a time, treadmill
Yeah.
run. Then you built up to, I'm guessing, the 10K, the half marathon, the marathon, and then did ultra marathons.
Yes, I did quite a few half marathons to start with and marathons. And then I thought, yeah, I'll try an ultra. And I actually loved the ultra. I found it easier than I thought I would. I think anybody could run an ultra. A lot of it is your mindset. You have to be
Nice.
stubborn, I think, to do an ultra. You probably agree with me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think really nice actually the way you put it is really nice because there is that stubbornness, but also I think if you're not a runner, there's this perception that marathons and ultra marathons are really quite difficult. But
Yeah,
actually, the ultra marathon compared to say even the normal marathon, they're very different animals and very different beasts. And I think what you say there about everyone could do an ultra, then I agree with that. I'll sit here and agree. There is lots of work that needs doing, and the mindset. You're absolutely right. But I think you're right that the ultra world allows more people to take part than the world thinks should be able to
yeah,
take part.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
And actually, Lisa, I'm going to tell you something that you don't know about yourself right now. But when myself and my friend Neil and a couple of other guys turned up from our running club to what was very early on in our ultra journey, there was this very friendly lady with pigtails that came over and spoke to us and made us feel really welcome. And that was yourself. And you made us, at that event, you'd obviously been to that event before, the Grim Reaper, but just meeting someone like you with your personality made us feel really welcome. And I think maybe, I don't know if you agree, but in the ultra community, there's no ego as such. People are really friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's so friendly. I mean, and you guys, I hadn't met you before, but you were so supportive. I was there on my own. I didn't have any crew. And you really sort of looked after me and took me in as one of your own. So really appreciated that. Thank you.
Yeah, now I would say that we probably all keep in contact. Multiple people in our club you probably know by first name now, and even though you're in a
Oh,
kind of local rival running club in the local leagues, you still, we've all become good friends, and we run past each other in events, and that support's always there, and that comes from the ultra world, right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, Cambridge Half was great, and so many of our clubs said they saw you, and oh, we saw Redders out there today, and that doesn't come from running 5Ks and running things locally for us. That comes from an ultra marathon that's sort of 90 minutes away from where we live, maybe a little bit further for you, but you
Yeah.
get what I mean. So yeah, that lack of ego, I think, is something that I love about the ultra world and the community. And, you know, you kind of, in that first instance, personified that, but it sounds like you got something back from us as well. So that's really good. I think I'm very grateful for the Grim Reaper as a whole event for kind of introducing me to the ultra world. Um, and we're going to talk about that now with you. So I've done an episode recently on here, which talked about people getting into the ultra running world and becoming addicted via one of three ways. And those three ways I discussed were they saw something in the media, so YouTube, read it on social media, whatever. Or secondly, they knew someone that had done an ultra, or it was just the natural next step in their journey. And it sounds like yours was because you knew someone that had done an ultra. And what kind of ultra had they done? Was it a big ultra, or was it something scary, or was it something that you thought, oh, I could do that?
I think they did. I think it was about a 50 miler. And I haven't actually done that one. I can't remember which one it was. It was one down south.
Yeah.
But I thought I sort of went to support and do a little bit of crewing, and everyone seemed really supportive. As you said, ultra runners just support each other. It's like a community. And I sort of got drawn into it, really. I thought, yeah, I'd like to have a go at this. I don't know if I can do it or not, but I thought I'll have a go and see how far I can get. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we won't spoil the rest of the questioning, but there's obviously been a natural progression for you once you got into that ultra world. And just in a brief answer, what would you say? What would you say that's made you want to continue ultra running and go further? Was it that personal challenge of how far you could go, or was it something else?
Yeah, it was to see how far I could go and how I felt, really. I didn't know how my body was going to react. And I mean, and my brain as well. I just wanted to have a go. It was like an achievement, really. I thought if I can do that, I can do anything.
Yeah, the running world and the comparisons to real life, and it's a good metaphor. I think if you can get through an ultra, you can get through anything. I think is fair in my case. Definitely, that's my experience. But it sounds like for you, it was that personal part, and if I can get through this, I can get through whatever I need to get through in my life as well.
Yeah, I think it helps. I think it helps to give you like a confidence. You go out and you think, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think wherever you start, it's very hard for anyone who's not an ultra runner. I think anyone listening who is an ultra runner would completely be on the same page as what we're on now, which is something that it's an if you know kind of thing, and that's just the way the ultra world is. So your ultra journey, obviously, I
yeah.
met you. I met you that year in 2016, and you were doing a 40-mile Grim Reaper. So talk to me about a 40-mile race. So 40 miles. How did you find that distance? How did you find that compared to, say, a marathon?
I found it all right, actually. I thought I didn't know when I first went into it, I didn't know what it was going to be like. I had no crew. Luckily, Grim Reaper is lapped, so you're not sort of stuck in the middle of nowhere. You always end up at your tent. So if you do get stuck, you can stop. And I basically split it up into 4 races because they're 10-mile loops, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I would do a loop, maybe grab some food at my tent and then go out again. And that's how I dealt with it. I tended to sort of break the race up into sections to make it more bearable, really, and doable, rather than thinking, oh my God, I've got to run 40 miles. How the hell am I going to do that?
Yeah, I think that's quite a common bit of feedback I'm getting as I interview people and talk to more people in the ultra world. I think that idea of looking at the whole race could be quite overwhelming, but actually the idea of thinking about the next aid station, which in the case of the race we're referring to is a 10-mile loop, right? So yeah, that seems like a very logical strategy for dealing with the 40 miles.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you'd been at that event?
Yeah, that was my first ultra. I did it in, I think it was 2014, my first one there. And I did that 40 miles a few times because I knew that it was doable after that. I mean, you still feel tired at the end, obviously, but I thought, yeah, that was my first event as an ultra.
Okay, and then obviously I know the journey a little bit because I was there year on after 2016. So how did that for anyone who doesn't know, the Grim Reaper was a very good race for anyone who's getting into ultra marathons. It was also very beginner friendly, and it was advanced friendly because it had the 40, the 70, and the 100 miles, and it was very inclusive because you could also be in teams for that as well. So
Yes, yeah.
how did your journey go after that? Because after 2016, I did 70 in 2017, and we saw you again, I'm
Yeah,
sure, that year. And then I was there the rest of the years, and I remember where you ended up with that race. But what did you do after 2016 and the 40 miler? Did you increase?
I did a few other ultras. I tried to sort of go further. I did like 100K, which was good. But I wanted to do the 100 miles at Grim Reaper, but I said I'd never do it because I thought it would do my head in doing 100 laps, sorry, doing 10 laps of that race,
Yeah.
basically. So yeah, that was in my head. I thought I could never do that. So I
See,
sort of did some shorter ones, but sort of further than 40 miles.
so you kind of built up after that 40 miles and went to the next step, the 100K, very common in the ultra world. And you'd done the Grim Reaper 40 miles a few times, say. What made you want to then go and try the 100 at Grim Reaper? Because you decided in 2019 or 18, I can't quite remember now.
I think it was 2019. Yeah. Yeah.
So you thought you'd take yourself back off to Grimthorpe and go to the castle and do the 100-mile Grim Reaper. Bearing in mind you'd
Yeah.
already been round that lap multiple times before, and
Hmm.
you thought you'd subject yourself 10 more times to it and attempt the
Yeah.
100-miler. Talk me through that experience of going for 100 miles in the 24-hour, 26-hour in that case cut-off period. I think it was. Just talk me through it. Talk me through a what made you go and do it, and then sort of what happened throughout the race.
Okay. Well, I decided I want to do 100 miles. And I thought, because I've got no crew, I'll go to that one again, even though it's going to do my head in and go because it's easy, because it's lapped. And I will try it. And I didn't think I would finish it, to tell you the truth. I thought I'm just going to see how far I can get before it blows my head. So, yeah, so I trained for it. I was supposed to do it the year before, but I had to have an operation, so I couldn't do it. So I deferred it, but it didn't put me off. I thought, no, I'm going to do this. So I turned up and I just planned my nutrition, how I was going to do it, and everything. And it went like clockwork. I don't know if I could ever do it like that again. It just seemed to flow really well and go like clockwork.
Yeah, so I was there, and so was all of our high runners team, and my sort of memory of you on that day was that you were very efficient when you came in to the tent to be straight back out, especially in the daytime. You were very efficient at coming in, getting what you needed, and cracking on again with those early laps. You know, is that right? How I saw it? Is that sort of how it went?
Yeah, I mean, I kept all my food at the tent and I thought, I'm going to run. I'm not going to stop though. I'm going to sort of pass through, past the tent, grab some food and keep going. I thought, because if I stop, that will be it. I won't want to start again. I mean, every time I went past, you guys were shouting at me, sort of, go on, do another lap. And it was really helpful. I mean, the encouragement was brilliant. So I just kept it up like that. And a couple of friends turned up and saw me around the course, bringing me bits and pieces, bits of food and that to help.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it just seemed to go all right.
Yeah, and I think obviously that event was traditionally held in July, or
Yeah,
early August. So we were always kind of good for a bit of a longer night, you know, bit more daylight, I should say. And
yeah.
but what happens in that moment when the dark comes, when night falls, and then you're now got to go out on this lap through wooded areas, past big fields with cows in it, albeit behind electric fences, but you know, lots of noises and things going on. There's other runners out there, but what happens when the dark sets in?
I actually love running in the dark. I'm a bit of a freak. I like horror, as you know. And as you know as well, after sort of quite a few hours of running, you start hallucinating, especially when you're hungry. And I mean, I was seeing everything. I could see Slender Man in front of me, what I thought was Slender Man, but it was someone walking with poles.
Yeah,
But it was quite interesting. And I mean, it's pitch black. I looked into a field with my head torch and I could see all these eyes, and it was basically a load of sheep. They were all huddled together for night. And that was quite funny. But yeah, it didn't seem to be dark for long, though. As you say, they're the sort of shorter nights, and it seemed to get light really quick. So I didn't feel like I was running for many laps in the dark.
yeah. No, I know what you mean. I did the 70 in 2017 in that event, and you know, time of year wise, I have a recall very similar kind of feeling to that. I kind of remember doing a couple of laps in the dark, maybe, but it almost was over. it was almost the end of dark when you went out there, and I don't remember what lap specifically, but probably lap 5 and 6 for me. And by the end of lap 6, you could kind of see that sunrise coming,
Yeah.
and it was just weird that I don't know. I was over halfway through my race, and then the dark came, and I thought, "Oh, here we go through the night." But the truth is call it 2 hours a lap, 2 and a bit hours a lap at that point, and it was daylight before you knew it, or the sun was rising at least. And tell me about that moment when you came out of the woods, back to the campsite, back to the lap end, and you've come out of those woods, and there's that road, little windy roads, and you're about to complete 100 miles. Tell me what was that feeling like, and what do you remember of it?
Oh my God. I couldn't believe I'd actually got there. I was so worried about making it in the cut-off time. I think, was it 25 hours we had to do it?
Yeah, I think it was 25 hours. Yeah.
I was so worried about running out of time, and I kept checking with people, am I all right? Am I still on time? And I'd actually walked quite a bit of that last lap because my feet were killing me. But as I came around the corner, I thought I better start running now. And I mean, every footstep was painful, but I managed to run through, and I couldn't believe it. I nearly forgot to click my tag at
Yeah.
the end. I mean, Keith had to say, quick, quick, do your tag. You finished. And they told me that I was the only lady that had completed it. So that was unbelievable. And I just burst into tears as well. It was just, yeah, I think it's the proudest moment of my life, to tell you the truth.
So not only did you do your first 100 miler, but you won it as well.
Yeah, I won it. And I think I was first lady and third overall. So, I mean, that's a miracle for me. I never win anything. So that was a
Oh, no,
miracle.
no, that's really cool. And I obviously have my own version of you finishing that race, and hearing you talk about it there brings all of it back from that whole event, really. And I think to go out there and be the only female that finishes it that day, and an adventure of 24 hours, and you know daylight, hot day as well. It was boiling. It was absolutely boiling that day.
It
um
was.
yeah. And how did you deal with that heat in that situation? How did you deal with the added heat? Because I remember it being exceptionally hot.
It was very hot, but I mean, if you run sort of at a steady pace, you tend to cool yourself down. I don't know about you. My
Yeah,
body sort of gets used to it. And I had to hydrate like crazy, obviously, and just eat all the way around and drink all the way around without drinking too much. So just getting the balance right and trying to stay in the shade as well, where I could.
obviously through the trees, you stayed in the trees where you could and hydrated as much as you could. I vaguely remember that year, Keith, the race director, he wouldn't normally put any water out on course, but he actually took some to the halfway point because he
Yes,
felt
that's
for
right.
safety, the safety side of it, he had to do that. So, um, yeah, I think when you run in, when you're running 100 miles, it's hard enough as it is, right? Let alone with
Yeah.
it being the hottest day of the year at the same time.
Yeah. Another little challenge to get over.
Yeah, and you did. You got over it, and you conquered it, and you came through at the end. So yeah, so your sort of journey of ultra running sort of, by the sounds of it, progressed up, and you didn't just go straight in and try and do 100K. You did some 40 milers, then you did the 100K, and then you did the 100 miler.
Yeah.
So would you do another 100 miler?
Yes, I've actually booked one for next May. And it's a point to point one because I really want to do a point to point 100 miler. And I've got a crewman this time to help me.
Centurion, Thames Pathway?
No, it's the Five Rivers Ultra. It's actually 103 miles.
Yeah, heard of
So
it. Yeah. So
it's my big birthday next year. So I want to do a few crazy things.
and what a way to celebrate a big birthday.
Mm,
So obviously that'll be very different because you've done the laps. So this is going to be A to B. So you've got yourself a crew, and you feel, with a crew, you're going to be able to have more access to like change your clothes at the random points that they meet you and things like that. So do you think it'll be different to the Grim Reaper in terms of how it feels?
Um, I'm not sure because I've never done a point to point one before, so this will be new for me. Yeah, I think it'll be easier headwise because you know you've got to get to the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
But it's quite tempting when you do a lapped race, as you know, if you get tired, you can just stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Whereas I guess on the point to point, you'll be between aid stations and between seeing your crew. So there's always that possibility that you could, if you're going to drop out, you might have to go a long way to get to somewhere before you can drop out. So you might as well carry on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you talk about ultra running, what does it mean to you and what does it give you? Other than the self-achievement and the medal, what is it that you get out of ultra running?
I think it's the achievement. I mean, the medal and the trophy is lovely, you know, but I think it's just the achievement of actually doing it. I actually did an ultra a couple of months ago and I didn't finish. It was the first ultra that I've not finished because I had injury and I just wasn't feeling right that day. But I didn't feel disappointed. I just thought, well, you know, it's just the way it is. There's other races, and obviously, if you're not feeling 100% on the day, it's not always going to go to plan. So I felt quite positive from it.
Yeah, I think anyone who goes into the ultra marathon world needs to accept that they might get a did not finish at some stage in their life. You know, I think we're all going to go through that. We're all going to go through that moment where I did it at Grim Reaper, where I didn't actually finish one year, end up in the medical tent with hypothermia. But you know, I think when we enter this ultra marathon world, we accept that we're gonna DNF at some point. We're gonna get a did not finish, and we just accept it, right?
Yeah, you can't you just have to move on to the next one. We're only human at the end of the day, so we're not machines. It's not always going to go to plan. You just
Yeah,
have to accept it. It doesn't matter. There's other races.
yeah, no, I agree. So can ask you a few quick fire questions, but feel free to elaborate on the answers as much as you want. So, what would you say your worst experience is during an ultra marathon, and what's the worst thing that's happened to you during an ultra marathon?
Just feeling, I mean, I did Grim Reaper 1 year and I did the first lap too quick and I forgot to eat and drink. And I sort of started out on my second lap and I thought, oh my God, I feel awful. And then, idiot, it's because you haven't drunk enough and eaten enough. So just get it on board now. But I think,
Yeah,
yeah, I think that was the worst thing, really. But you can sort of turn it around. I think it's a learning curve. I think although I've done quite a few ultras, I think there's always something to learn. And I'm always like to listen to other people and take advice from them because it's different and you just run every race different, I think.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree. I think there's that feeling of being a sponge and absorbing what others have to say about it, and then trying to apply what you can to your own journey and seeing
Yeah.
how that works for you. Um, okay, so how would you say you find the training for ultra running?
Training's all right. I mean, I'm quite lucky. I never do the full distance. I tend to do like 20 milers. That's it. Even if it's like the 100 mile. I mean, I think if I'd trained for the 100 mile properly, well, I don't know what properly is, but doing like 50-mile training runs, I think it would have just drained me. I think a lot of it is in the mindset. You know, your legs can take you so far and then your mind takes over. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's totally it for me. Obviously, a lapped 70 is the furthest I've been, but I would say that feeling of you're already going to be in pain at a certain point, and your legs, like you said, can't. They'll just keep going if your head tells them to keep going. But if the head tells you not to keep going, then you end up plodding along and getting cold and getting hypothermia, and then you have to drop out the race. And that's my experience of it. And I think I think the mindset is a massive part of it. And I think you're right. The training, you can just go up to your 20 miler. You can do your back to back runs on a weekend, and they don't have to be 50, 60
Yeah.
miles long. You can just do what you need to do at the weekend. So, yeah, no, I agree. I do agree. Um, so far, what is your favorite race or favorite experience during ultra running?
Favorite race? Does it have to be an ultra?
No, no, it doesn't have to be an ultra. It can be anything.
I've got quite a few. I mean, there's an 18 miler that I like to do, the Berry to Clare 18 miler, because of the terrain. I love running off road. I prefer off road to road running.
Yeah,
I mean, I started off running on the road sort of in the early days, and it killed my legs. And I just find trail running's more interesting. There's more to look at, and it's just nice to run somewhere different on
yeah,
different surfaces.
yeah. No,
So
I've never
I've
done
got
that race. I've never been up to that race, but it does have a good reputation for being fun and different.
it's a good one. Yeah, it's really nice. But
Do they?
I like Grim Reaper as well, even though I know the course off by heart now. Probably you do as well.
Yeah, yeah. I've been round it. I did tell someone the other day the total, but I've forgotten what it is now off the top of my head. But obviously the seven. Then I did 5.5 laps, and then I did two as a team, so two single laps. So I've been well over double figures around that loop, and yeah, the aim for me would have been to have done my first 100 there, by the way, but it's not been around. It kind of missed out. It wasn't going to be on in 2020 anyway, even if the pandemic hadn't have happened. I don't think the race was going to be about anymore, or if it's going to come back. So we'll have to see if that race returns. But what's your bucket list race? Have you got one race that you see as being the kind of pinnacle, the one race that you want to attend, or the one race that you think that would be the race that I want to do before I die?
I would I would love to do the Marathon de Sable. I mean, I would really like to do that. It's really expensive and they have a waiting list, but I wouldn't mind doing that. It's supposed to sort of change your life, basically. You go and you come back and you just feel completely different. So
Yeah, no, good,
I'd
good.
like to go and have a go.
That's a really cool bucket list race. I think we've had people say that before as well. So it'll be interesting to know if you ever if you ever make the start line. Obviously, we'll be supporting you from here back home in the sort of Cambridgeshire area, big time. So yeah. And what does running mean to you, Redders? What would you say running means to you? What does running give you in general? Is running something that you need in your life?
Oh, definitely. Yes, I do. It helps to keep me sane, if that makes sense. I could be
Yeah.
in a really bad mood or struggling with something, and I'll make myself go out for a run and I'll come back completely different person. It helps me to sort of put things in order, if that makes sense.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, I think it does help.
I think in your answer there, know that I understand what you mean, even if everyone listening doesn't, because I've never heard someone say that to me in that way. But when you say putting things in order, that really resonates because that, for me, if I go for a run in the morning, that day is in order. That day has
Yeah,
a set process then that I can get through. So yeah, putting it in order, that's a great way of thinking about it. I've never said that to anyone or responded, but actually that is it. And love that that's how it makes you feel because I get it. But I guess some runners, I think everyone's different, right? You probably at Ely Running Club, you probably know all sorts of people, different types of runners, and what they get out of running will be completely different to the next person, and so on, right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So give me your kind of top tip or top tips for someone that wants to run 100 miles.
Okay, get a good pair of shoes to start with. Um, just go out. I mean, make sure you've got enough food and drink. Preferably get someone to look after you if you're going as well. get a crew maybe. And just make sure you eat and drink. I mean, go out on training runs and take different types of food to try. Don't sort of leave anything for that day. Take food and drink and try it to make sure that it agrees with you. And then just go and have a go, basically, and see how far you can get. If you don't complete it, it doesn't matter. You've still run a distance. So have a go. And then maybe if you want to do it again, try next year.
Yeah, I mean that's my experience from the 70 miler. Obviously, you had an operation in the year that you should have done it, and then you went back and did it the next year. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's sound advice, that is. And it's the unknown, isn't it? It's that unknown feeling of, I think no one really knows today when they first go out what to expect. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed the experience of talking to us about it all. It's been great to have you on the show, and I thank you for coming on. We'll continue to see you and support you at various things, I'm sure, over the years to come. And you know, maybe when you do that A to B ultra, you can come back on the show and talk about the difference between running a lapped ultra and an A to B ultra. That would be really good, especially
I'd
because
love to.
you know, with them being 100 miles as well, it would be really good once you've done that to understand that difference. So we'll definitely get you back on the show to talk about that. Obviously, if people wanted to follow you, is there any way they can follow your journey?
I'm on Instagram at Patched Up Runner.
Okay. Interesting name. It's a good name, that.
Through lots of operations, so it makes sense.
So yeah, so I'll pop that in the description for this episode, so people can just click on that and follow you if they want to. But yeah, no, thanks for coming on, Redders. Really appreciate you coming on the show, and I'll look forward to like supporting you through the rest of that journey as well myself. So I'll look forward to it and share with the team as we go. So hope everyone's enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully if you did, you could give it the show a rating. Pass it on to anyone who you think would find it was interest to them. If you thought Lisa's story was something that you know someone else would need to hear or would like to hear in their journey and their experiences, please do pass that on. But I hope you enjoyed yourselves, guys, and I hope that we can meet here again to discuss more on the Ultra Running Podcast with me, Coach Marshy.